This is episode 2 of the video about how to add some cool features to your favorite small fixed blade setup to make it useful to you as a pocket carry or as a belt carry every day without changing anything else. Starting with the lanyards, or fobs as some people call it. I received both knives with a non-easily detachable lanyard, but when I went to weave my favorite, this is what I call Chris Reeve lanyard weave, I put it, you can see here, I tried to put it in this hardware. Well, they provided spare hardware, so I can show you easily. The hole in this hardware is small. It will allow one paracord to go through, but not a bundle of two. And because of how the hardware is, there's no way to expand the hole with a drill. Fortunately, all kinds of cordage is available anywhere camping gear is sold. And as you can see, I was able to fit it just fine. So now I have a lanyard that I can actually easily remove because it's a slip knot. I can just undo it here, remove it. If I need to take the scales off for cleaning or replace with another scales, it just comes out like this. To put it back in, it's still pretty snug, but what you do is you take a piece of dental floss, and if you're camping or doing whatever, you should have a little bit of dental floss or fishing line with you that can double as a dental floss, haha. And what you do is you just loop it through the lanyard and run it through. It comes through easy, you don't have to mess with it. If you wonder how to make this knot, I will show you in a few minutes here, or you can just look up slip knot. And just like that, it goes in, and you can cinch it onto itself. Trying to rush it on camera, and that's why I am shaky. Okay, so once you cinch it right here, you can then adjust the tension and bring the bit here, the handle extension bit, which I like. Actually, I like the shape because it that's where you land your pinky. Now it's as close as you need it to be, and to remove, you just pull on it and it will come loose. So it's adjustable and easily accessible. There you go. Do you see one little problem with this lanyard? Think of the knife in the outdoors context. You got it. It needs to be a heck of a lot brighter, like this cord that I found on Amazon in neon orange or chartreuse colors with a reflective strip woven right into it. So at night, when you look for it with your flashlight, whether it's regular and the reflective strip reflects the regular light, or ultraviolet and then this orange really lights up, you should be able to find it. As opposed to black cordage that pretty much disappears no matter what you shine on it. I removed the inner core of this paracord. That's a regular 500 paracord. Anyway, it's going to be strong enough to do basic cordage duties. It's not going to hold your weight off the tree. To do a snake knot, make a letter P with one strand underneath, then pass the other strand over and into the loop. It makes a little bit of a pretzel, and just cinch it. I'll show you the length that you're going to need, or at least at my estimate. Be very careful how you cinch it. Nicely formed V-shaped knot. This is what I'm trying to form here. I'll show it to you again in a second. And I left there about 3 inches of loop. So here it is again. Letter P with a leg underneath the loop. Passing the other end through the loop twice. Under and then over. And then cinching, you have to, especially first couple, you have to kind of be dexterous about it and locate it. These knots are independent from one another, so they will not position themselves. You got to kind of cinch them right next to each other. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a very loose snake that looks like it swallowed a bunch of golf balls. Each time I form the P, I try to make it small. Here, for illustration purposes, I made it pretty big. You can go as tight as your dexterity permits. Unleash your inner dexter here and make 9-10 knots. I think I ended up with 9. I'm not going to bore you through the entire process. This is not an adjustable knot. Once you set that loop at the top, it's going to remain the same length unless you redo the entire thing. And if it seems too long to you, you will see why I ended up with this design. So now I'm going to show you what's going on. I'm putting the original bit that came with the knife, and I'm using a strand of inner core to pull it through the handle hardware. I'm going to tie it onto itself. And now what I ended up with is way too loose and serves no practical purpose, or at least no purpose in supporting your pinky finger. And that is totally going against my nature. I don't like reducing usefulness. I would like to increase the usefulness of this attachment. And I was about to unweave it and redo it at the shorter length, but then a light bulb went off. And I remembered that both knives were supplied with extra set of handle hardware, which itself has a hole in the middle. So here's what I'm doing, and I bet you already got the gist of it. I am going to put it all on my fob or lanyard. Imagine getting your knife dirty in the wilderness. Here how it goes. Assemble screw. Anyway, imagine your knife got super dirty in the wilderness. You decide to clean it. You take the scales off, and just like that, you lost at least one set of screws. Now you have them with you instead of a box at home. By the way, I'd like to compliment NAFs for putting their gear into very nice boxes made of recycled cardboard. That's a start. Back to the lanyard. It feels a little loose here. Doesn't give me enough support at my pinky, and the knots are not adjustable. And then another light bulb goes off. The answer is right in front of my eyes, because those are screws that are fully screwed in. So by unscrewing them, I can increase the tension between the bit and the weave at will, to any degree that I desire. I'm exaggerating a little bit. It goes from 13/16 to 1 inch and 1/16, or half an inch total traverse. It's about 13 millimeters, all for a comfortable, tight, and supportive fit. Next, cut another 28 inches of the same cord and take the core out. Then make 3 legs 5 inches long, and then start wrapping the long end onto itself and around the other 2 legs. You should be able to get 13 to 15 wraps. And now I'm on the opposite end. You're going to feed the end that you were wrapping through that other loop. And then on the first loop, pull one of the legs until it sucks the loose end in. And that is your adjustment leg. So tie a knot on it so you can tell which one it is. Let's take a look at the hardware again. I'm putting it together. The nuts are captive. The correct term is self-aligning. They're D-shaped in the cross-section. And I want to show you real quick how to tell which side of the blade has captive hardware. That's the one with the slots lined up directly at the tip of the blade. The other side, the slots can end up in any orientation, but this is your captive side, so don't try to unscrew it from that side. You gotta unscrew it from the opposite side. Sorry about this little excursion. We're ready to put it on. Like I said, I'm going to put the screws next to the handle so my pinky rests on the actual screws rather than the bit, to see if it feels any more secure in my hand. Same idea, using the inner core I just took out of this paracord, which, may I remind you, won't go through these holes otherwise. Now, I tried to remove just a part of the core, and this particular style of paracord didn't allow me to do it. I seem to recall that I've done partial removal on other simpler types of paracord, but it didn't work on this one. Anyway, let's see how it feels in this arrangement. Feels pretty comfortable. And I'm definitely looking forward to your comments on which arrangement you like best, but not yet, because I'm still not ready to carry these knives. I am yet to address a whole slew of. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement. There is no company that I found yet on this planet that makes a perfect sheath for a small size pocket EDC fixed blade knife. For some reason, a predominant majority of these companies believe that just like on a full-size fixed blade, the handle has to protrude almost entirely out of the sheath. I don't know if they're trying to save Kydex, or they think we're urban ninjas that will need quick access for tactical purposes to the handle. Neither is true in case of an outdoor or EDC knife. The amount of time that companies spend considering the sheath should be equal to the amount of time they spend designing a knife. Because how well the sheath is designed for the purpose that that knife was designed for will determine whether or not the end user will end up using it in that scenario, right? So if you're designing a pocket carry EDC knife, the sheath should correspond. Unfortunately, companies are struggling with that concept. The only one I found that comes close to being ideal for pocket carry is this Northsmith pocket knife. Northsmith is David C. Anderson of the Knife Center. That's his name brand. And I believe this particular blade was made by White River. I think he cooperates with White River. So for that knife, he developed a sheath that is perfect for pocket carry. See, if it's in the pocket, only this part will be protruding, showing just a little bit of a handle. The only problem with this sheath was they went with a traditional pocket knife, folding knife pocket clip. I guess either Ulti Clips weren't as available back then, or it's a couple years old design, maybe 3-4 years old design. They should have considered attaching a clip-on type clip. So because what happens when this sits in the pocket and you pull the knife, it will come out of the pocket with the sheath. While editing this video, I went on the NAF's website again, and I found that they actually selling the sheath that's near identical to that of the Northsmiths. The sheath looks classy and modern at the same time, but I haven't tested it, but I predicted it will come out of the pocket with the knife because it has a very similar clip. Or because its shape form to the handle, it might be looser than I would consider safe to carry in a pocket. And no avoiding mentioning a hefty price tag for these sheaths. Back to the video. In my personal opinion, Benchmade has one of the best small fixed blades in the market currently. It's the Hidden Canyon. And unfortunately, it comes in a very poorly designed sheath. This is a great knife, and because I liked carrying or wanted to carry an exact size knife, I came up with this prototype sheath myself. As you can see, the knife sits here basically level with the pocket. It has everything a pocket sheath needs to have: a wide throat so you can easily locate where the blade is going. You don't want it to go past and cut your pant, or go on this side and cut into your leg. So here I made a wide throat here. Sorry about the rough edges, there's some experimentation involved. And it gives me enough access for my finger to grip on it if I need to go a little faster. This is just something I added. It's an old bicycle tube and some sharpening tool and a little wood saw if I need one. And then I have a ferro rod, again, if I need to start a fire. For some reason, to most companies, sheath is an afterthought. The sheath itself, is, other than what I mentioned, is okay. This is not very useful because you have to undo your belt to put it on. This is designed, obviously, for scout carry, but the problem with that is they made it so wide. This is a 2-inch belt, and I wear a 1.5-inch belt. And so what happens if I put it on my belt, it will be flapping around, and it will end up hanging down. Handle will be downward, so it makes for awkward moments. So I don't think this will work out for anybody. Let me know in the comments if you disagree. But you know what they say, one man's oversight is another man's fun project. And the knives themselves check out so many boxes for me that I am going to spend a little bit of time, build the sheaths for them that I find useful, and more importantly, share my process with you guys. And therefore, welcome into my kitchen, where I found this already marked up sheet of Kydex. I'll provide the dimensions that I measured for this knife. And link to the Kydex itself on Amazon in the description. Meanwhile, I'm preheating the Kydex on the smooth side, which is the inside of the future sheath. And when Kydex starts deforming like this, it becomes as easy to cut as leather of the same thickness, except it hardens as it cools down. But don't worry about the ripples. They're very easily removed. And you cut it just like you would cut a leather sheet. Not all at once. Don't try to cut it in one pass. The first cut will guide you for the next cut. It takes 2 to 3 cuts to cut equivalently thick sheet of leather, so same exact practice. Preheat it again if it hardens as you cut. Take your time. All the edges will be trimmed later anyway, so you don't need to be absolutely immaculate in how you cut it. And I'm reheating it to smooth it out. I'll show you the trick in a second here. This video is accelerated to save you some time. But remember, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And speaking of smooth, now I got myself a perfectly flat, well, almost perfectly flat sheet of Kydex of the right size. And I use it as a template to cut another piece of Kydex. And now I am heating up the line where the crease will be. And it's smack in the middle. The style of the sheath is called taco because it's folded just like a taco at a taco stand. And I'm trying to line up the corners so it's pretty symmetrical. I am using pieces of gym mat because one side is pliable and the side with the Velcro on is not pliable. One side of the sheath will be flat and the other one will be contoured to the knife. I will explain why later. Of course, you can always do contouring on both sides. If it's your first Kydex project, practice on the leftover piece, e.g. make a sheath for your tactical spork. If your fingers are sensitive to heat, wear some gloves. I have calluses from learning how to play guitar a long time ago, and they stayed with me, so I'm not as sensitive. And what you see me do here is heating small areas. You can always tell when the Kydex is pliable, it starts returning to its original shape, kind of flowing outwards. And at this point, I contour the sheet here to the handle. What makes Kydex so cool, it can stretch just like wet leather. And that's why I'm able to keep underside flat. I'm also placing it on the less pliable side of my foam piece. And the other side stretches around the contours of the knife. I am not worried about retention at this point, and again, I will explain in a few minutes why I am not particularly worried about that yet. All I'm trying to do is get the knife to sort of lock in a little bit. It still should be somewhat free-flowing out of the sheath. Now I need to focus on the front. Because the two knives have different blade shape, I want to have clearly visible shape of the blade. This is what I do. Apply immense pressure. I weigh 180 pounds, so at least half of my weight is on the workpiece. And please do note that I'm working on a granite surface and I'm pointing the heat gun toward the tile-clad wall to avoid burning anything. But be very careful where you're pointing this heat gun because in the heat of a battle you can forget and point it at something that can melt or burn. And there are 1200 degrees coming out. That's my setting for Kydex work. There are literally tons of videos out there how to create a professional Kydex work setup. I did not justify the investment. I don't do it often enough. But let's get back to what I'm doing here. See how I'm pinching the sheath near the handle? That's how tight the handle will fit once you put the Ulti Clip on it with the screws. And obviously, I didn't stop at one sheath. I created sheaths for both of these lanyards. And here they are, side by side. And at this point, we're about halfway through this project. I know you're wondering if one could be made that fits both, and the answer to this question is yes. You're just not going to have an outline of the blade. To trim the sheath width down, I'm reheating the edges, the outer edge of the sheath. And I'm going to have to do a bunch of cuts here, just like I did in the beginning of this segment. Once again, it cuts like wet leather, about the same amount of force. And oh, by the way, this sheep's foot shape is perfect for this type of project. I'm loving it. This is my official sheath making knife going forward, and I like that that has the curve so I can vary the pressure a little bit. It just feels less awkward than a traditional sheep's foot to me, and it's a personal opinion. So I'm using it on both sheaths. These straight and narrow cuttings, I keep them for other projects. And now I'm trimming the corners. You want the corners trimmed off because when it rides in your pocket, especially if you wear tighter pants, you don't want it to rub against your leg. Here I'm marking off the location for the Ulti Clip. Just remember to consider where the edge of the pocket will be when you put it on. There's no universal sort of way to do it. Some of you have pockets that are cut more horizontally, others have pockets that are cut more vertically. Play with the shape. Make what Ben Peterson calls CAD, cardboard aided design. According to himself, Ben literally makes prototypes for every knife out of cardboard first, and he calls it CAD, cardboard aided design. I found it very humorous and totally stealing his line now. As you can see, the knife pops in nicely. The throat is wide enough to find it. Even, I would keep your eye on where you're putting your knife at any time, but at least where it's going to end up in your pocket, it will be completely visible to you. And if you're wearing pants with a vertically cut pockets or very pronounced diagonal pockets, you should play with the shape and where you're locating the Ulti Clip. Apparently, I wasn't done. I ended up adding these belt loops. One made out of webbing belt, another one out of old leather belt. And the reason I did that, I'll show you in a second. To attach them, I needed some of that Ulti Clip style hardware and a 5/16 drill bit. Pretty straightforward stuff, no need to bore you with how I did it. I wanted to show you the end result by placing it on my everyday belt. As you can see, there's no play, no rattle. It's solid, it doesn't shift, it doesn't move. I will always know where the knife is if I decide to carry it on the belt thusly. And the same goes for the webbing style loop that I attached. I always buy oversized belts, and they come in huge sizes. I'll throw a link in. So you can always save some of that extra webbing. And those are Ratchet belts. Obviously, a Ratchet belt is a must-have for anyone who is really into EDC. Here I wanted to show you for comparison what the original NAF's sheath looks like on the belt, so that you understand why I felt compelled to do what I did. Put the knife in. Look at the amount of play here. It moves, it shifts, it slides freely on the belt. If you don't feel like doing what I did here, obviously this is a Kydex loop. You can heat it up and resize it to your favorite belt. Totally up to you. And the reason I did not introduce the riveted ferrules or other grummets like on the original factory sheath, it's because those are for lashing using cordage. On a factory sandwich sheath, they're also necessary to hold the two halves of the sheath together. So here's an example of a factory taco style sheath from Strop. As you can see, if you didn't have those grummets here, the cord would rub on the sharp edges of Kydex and break, which is not desirable. For what I did here, that wasn't necessary, but they're also easily found on Amazon, and if you want to do them, the link will be in the description. One side of the sheath is flat in case you want to use your pocket, and say you have a set of keys down at the bottom, you can still reach in and pull the keys out with your hand comfortably. If the retention feels a little too tight for you, you can adjust the Ulti Clip because they come with rubber washers. Place one rubber washer behind one of the screws and you got adjustments. This way the knife ends up in the reverse grip here. I like it, it's just me. If you prefer to carry edge back, do the inverse of what I did. Your imagination is the limit here. It's a fun project and treat it as such. For now, I will say this. There is a little bit of an urban ninja in every one of us. And that's why we collect knives, not tablespoons. Go ahead and try this with spoons.